everyone. Welcome back to Reddit Affair Diaries. How's your day going so far? I hope it's been great, but if not, don't stress. You're in the perfect spot to relax and dive into some juicy relationship stories. There's always something new and unexpected waiting around the corner here. Before we jump in, leave a comment and share something good from your day. Let's keep the good vibes going and start this story together.
This Reddit story from our /cheating stories shares how OP's girlfriend of 3 months admitted to cheating in a previous relationship. The night was unexpectedly quiet, one of those times when silence almost feels like a living presence. It was late, and she was curled up beside me, her eyes red and glossy, brimming with a mix of emotions I couldn't yet decipher. It was as if her mind was trying to bridge a gap between us, something vast, something she could no longer contain. She took a deep breath, and her voice trembled as she said, "There's something I need to tell you, something from my past." My heart thudded in my chest, not knowing where this would lead. But the way she looked at me, a mixture of fear, sadness, and something else, almost like a plea for understanding, held me in place, making me realize that whatever she was about to say could change everything between us. We had been together for 3 months. It wasn't a lot of time, but enough to make me feel like I was beginning to know her, to love her. Our relationship had been moving in that wonderful, unpredictable way, like a river finding its course. And yet, here we were, about to face something heavy, something potentially life-altering. She took another deep breath, her eyes unable to meet mine. "I cheated," she whispered, and the word fell between us like a stone in the water, rippling through my mind, creating waves of confusion, pain, and doubt. I kept silent, letting her words sink in. Cheating had always been my boundary, a line in the sand I made clear from the start of this relationship. And now, it seemed like we were standing right on it. She continued, her voice shaking, unraveling parts of herself she had kept hidden until now. She told me about her past, about her time as a Jehovah's Witness. She left that world when she was 23, just 5 years ago. I learned about her first sexual encounter, how it was with a married man, a 27-year-old who had groomed her, manipulated her, and completely changed the way she saw herself and the world. I could hear the pain in her voice, how she described him not just as a mistake, but as someone who had poisoned her sense of love and self-worth. "He made me believe that I was nothing unless someone wanted me," she said, tears falling freely now. I could see the raw vulnerability in her eyes, a deep wound that still hadn't healed. She went on to tell me that she had been assaulted multiple times after that, each time a part of her breaking a little more, each time the image of herself in the mirror becoming more fractured. Last night, she chose to trust me with everything, her fears, her regrets, her darkest secret. She looked at me and said, "I need you to know that I once cheated." She was breaking down, tears spilling as she admitted to it, and I felt a tight knot forming in my chest. She explained it happened in a relationship that lasted 3 years, a relationship from her past, one she entered after leaving the Jehovah's Witness community. It wasn't a happy one, she said. He was controlling, abusive. She felt trapped in a way she couldn't describe. The abuse, both emotional and sometimes even physical, had left her feeling worthless. In those moments of hopelessness, she had turned to someone else, someone who showed her kindness, a temporary escape from the darkness of her reality. I listened in silence, feeling a storm rise inside me. It wasn't about her telling me she had cheated, it was about everything that led her to that point. She explained that in the chaos of her earlier life, after being groomed, after being treated like she was nothing, she began to think that being sneaky, hiding things, was the only way to survive. She told me that it was how she coped back then, it was what she knew. But that was years ago, a different version of her, someone she had long left behind. Her voice was trembling, her words coming in and out with her sobs. "I never cheated in any of my other relationships," she said, her gaze finally meeting mine. "I promise. I was so lost back then, I didn't know who I was. But I've grown since. I left that world behind. I want to be different now. I have been different since then." I sat there, her words hanging in the air, and I was at a loss. I could feel her regret. It was palpable, almost like it filled the entire room. She was crying, genuinely breaking down, and there was no denying that she was sorry, that she carried the weight of that decision with her every single day. She had brought it up without me ever asking, after just 3 months of being together. It wasn't something she owed me, and yet she shared it, not knowing if it would tear us apart. My mind kept flashing back to the first time we discussed boundaries, the first time I told her that cheating was an absolute no for me, a line that if crossed would end everything. I wanted to be with someone I could trust completely, someone who I wouldn't have to worry about, and I was honest about that from the start. I remember her nodding, a glimmer of understanding in her eyes, and I thought that we were on the same page. But now, everything seemed different. A whirlwind of emotions spun through me: betrayal, confusion, even sympathy. I couldn't ignore the genuine remorse in her voice, the tears that streamed down her face as she spoke. This wasn't a confession from someone looking for forgiveness just to ease her own conscience. This was something deeper. She was baring her soul, knowing very well that it could end everything between us. I asked her why she did it. She hesitated, wiping her eyes before whispering that the groomer, the abusive past, all of it had made her believe that being sneaky and dishonest was all she knew. That it was normal, that it was what she deserved. I didn't know what healthy love looked like back then, she said. I didn't know how to feel safe. I was just trying to survive. There was a part of me that understood. She was manipulated, she was used, and she was trying to piece herself together. But another part of me, the one that felt the sting of her words, wasn't sure how to move forward. Trust was crucial for me, and I couldn't help but think that if she did it once, could she do it again? Was this going to be the shadow looming over our relationship? She reached out, her fingers gently brushing mine. I know this changes things, she said, her voice barely audible. I understand if you can't stay. I just wanted you to know who I was, who I used to be, because I want you to know all of me, even the parts one hate. I stayed silent for a long time, my thoughts racing. Her vulnerability, her willingness to open up even when it could end everything, meant something. It showed me that she didn't want to hide anymore, that she wanted to be better. But my fear, my doubt, those were also real. Could I ever fully trust her, or would this confession live in the back of my mind forever, making me question her every action, every word? She had changed. She said it, and I wanted to believe it. I could see it, too. The effort she put into our relationship, the way she was always honest about even the smallest things. She wanted to be different, better. But was that enough for me? The silence between us grew heavy, the weight of everything unsaid pressing down. I wanted to be angry, but more than that, I felt sad. Sad for the person she used to be, for the pain she carried, and for the possibility that this could break us apart. I didn't know what to do. I cared about her, I cared about us, but trust once broken is hard to rebuild, even if it wasn't broken with me. She looked at me, eyes wide, searching for something, hope, maybe forgiveness. I'm not asking you to decide right now, she said, her voice steadying. I just needed you to know. And whatever you decide, I'll understand. I nodded, still not trusting myself to speak. There were no easy answers here, no clear path forward. It would always be in the back of my mind, the knowledge of what she did. But at the same time, her honesty, her remorse, made me want to believe in her, in us. That night, I held her as she cried herself to sleep. I could feel her heart racing against my chest, her breath uneven as she whispered apologies, not just to me but to the person she used to be. And as I held her, I realized that this wasn't something we could solve in one night, maybe not even in a few weeks or months. It was going to be a journey, one where both of us had to decide whether the love we were building could survive the weight of her past. She was flawed, yes, but so was I. So is everyone. And maybe, just maybe, what mattered was how we chose to grow from here, how we learned to forgive, not just each other, but ourselves for the mistakes that still haunted us. As the dawn broke, painting the room in soft, golden light, I found myself hoping that we could make it through. That this would be the beginning of something new, not perfect, but real, something that could withstand the truth of who we used to be, and celebrate the people we were trying to become. Advice to Up. It's understandable that this revelation has left you feeling conflicted. Her honesty, vulnerability, and remorse show that she genuinely wants to grow from her past. Trust, once shaken, can take time to rebuild, but it's not impossible if you both are willing to put in the effort. Reflect on whether her growth aligns with the boundaries you need in a relationship. Take your time to decide if you're ready to accept her past and move forward together, or if this is a deal breaker for you. Trust your instincts, and remember that your well-being and peace of mind are most important.